Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it a couple minutes to make sure that we give everyone time to join. So we'll start here momentarily at 2:05 p.m. Eastern. Good afternoon, Maquiza and Marina. Nice to have you guys. We're giving everyone time to join in. We're going to start at 2:05 p.m. Eastern time. It looks like we have mostly everyone in, so I think we're going to start here. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining the Cameyo hands-on workshop that we'll be delivering today. We'll be going over a short agenda with Eric Johnson and myself. My name is Donovan Linton. I'm the solution architect here at XenTegra Gov. I handle all of our SLED accounts as well as publicly funded university education and federal customers. Along with me, I have Eric Johnson from Cameyo.
And yeah, I cover all of the Americas and such for Cameyo.
Eric will be handling, for the most part, our demo with Cameyo, as well as showing off the architecture. And from there, I'm sorry, I go over the full agenda. So the agenda we're going to go over, we're going to talk about who XenTegra is and who Cameyo is. And within that, we will go into a demo of the Cameyo product. From the demo, we'll go directly into a hands-on experience with Eric. Will provide you guys with credentials to actually log on and walk through a full-on lab. That lab will have the ability to convert to a full 30-day trial after completion. So we'll be able to go through that process. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat window as we're going along. Once we get into the lab, we'll unmute you guys. So if you have any questions or any problems going through the lab, you'll be able to speak and ask those questions, but you'll also have time to make sure that you're getting through the lab. And if we have any questions, about 30 minutes in, we're going to do a wrap up and allow you to continue with the lab. So as I mentioned, want to first go over who XenTegra is. XenTegra is a Cameyo product partner. We like to help and go through the journey with customers when they're looking for a solution to deliver applications, specific type of applications to your end users, or if you have a problem that you're trying to solve, we're able to work with Cameyo to help you solve those issues. Along with working with Cameyo, we also work with 80 different other vendors. So whatever issues or problems you're having regarding that, like you're looking for additional solutions as you're delivering these applications, if you want monitoring solutions and things of that nature, we have a full services organization that we're able to help provide those solutions to you. We were founded 12 years ago by Andy Whiteside, and he has a philosophy. He likes to educate the community on these type of products, which is why we're having this webinar today. So we definitely like to provide these type of services to you from an education standpoint, so that you understand what's available to you as a customer or end user. As I mentioned, on top of that, we are a value-added reseller. So we work with 80 different vendors from networking. If you're looking for any type of firewalls or and things of that nature, servers and hardware, the infrastructure. So we do have a full breadth that we work with from a reseller standpoint. We also do consulting and managed services. So if you needed someone to actually manage these environments for you, we can manage them for you as well. And in addition, we also, as I mentioned, we like to provide value to you as a customer. So we do have several complementary assessments that we'll do, from a networking to application virtualization and several other practices that we lead there to, again, and those are provided completely free because we do like to make sure that we're adding value and providing value to you as a customer. Next, we'll go into who Cameyo is.
Yeah, so with Cameyo, so essentially we were born in around 2012, and essentially what the issue was our founder was kind of struggling. His name's Ayal Dotan, but he was struggling with being able to deliver applications that felt like they were locally installed on different devices without actually having to locally install those applications. And so that's sort of where the concept for virtual application delivery was born with Cameyo. So what's really cool about Cameyo is we're able to deliver these applications without actually pushing out the desktop. So if you want to advance the slide for me, Donovan, I kind of want to go back in time, back to like kind of your traditional VDI infrastructure and talk about that evolution that sort of led us to what Cameyo does. And so I'm sure many of you are familiar, and obviously XenTegra are experts in this concept of the virtual desktop infrastructure, a lot of solid consulting and just a great understanding there. And so this is a really cool initial way to deliver, Windows desktops to users that were managed from a separate location with resources, enabled thin client computing and zero client computing to start to be a factor. And we saw that sort of evolved into a desktop as a service play, where now we could take that non-cloud native feel of VDI and shift over and provide a cloud native delivery of those Windows desktops. And it was going to be fully hosted inside of that vendor's cloud environment. So it facilitated a little bit less infrastructure costs for the organization to have to keep that kind of stuff on-prem, and delivered it as a cloud native solution. But there still wasn't the same kind of flexibility that Cameyo brought to the table with virtual application delivery. And so we kind of took it a step further and said, well, actually, we don't even need to deliver desktops to organizations. In some particular use cases, it might make a lot of sense to deliver that application on its own to any device. And so we came together with a lot more flexibility to allow a customer to fully host our infrastructure in their own environment, even using like on-prem servers or VMs, or allow for a fully hosted version of Cameyo inside of our own infrastructure. And this way you can actually push cloud native applications, on-premises applications in a cloud native fashion directly through a browser. And so really cool what we're doing with Cameyo. I wanted to kind of move towards what our core value proposition is. And on the next slide, you can see what we really pride ourselves on is that ability to securely deliver any of your applications to any of your devices. And so the foundations of that have to be that first, it needs to be simple. You'll see today firsthand that you can deploy an application in just a few minutes with Cameyo. It's incredibly easy. And so when we compare that to traditional VDI rollouts and stuff, it's kind of remarkable. I think as you go through the lab, you might even feel like, hey, am I missing something? This almost seems too easy. It's incredibly secure. As you see me go through our architecture and a little bit later in the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about that security. But the idea behind security, I think foundationally is that, we're eliminating VPNs and we're doing a zero trust architecture and making sure that you don't have open ports in your firewall. So incredibly secure. Cost effective is a big point for us and for our customers. When they look at using Cameyo, they can typically see like a 50, maybe even up to 70% reduction in cost for their infrastructure when they switch over to Cameyo, especially if they can take advantage of not just using a Windows server infrastructure on the back end with RDS CALs and things like that, but actually maybe switching over to Linux. You can introduce even more dramatic cost savings. And then this is something I've kind of touched on already, but just that flexibility of a cloud native service that can deliver any application to any device, can integrate with your existing SSO provider, any existing databases, and really allow you to take any of your applications and push those to any device and make that an incredibly viable option. And so our customers love this. The next slide kind of shows some of our G2 reviews. And I think if you look a little closer, you continue to see that we kind of sweep G2 in terms of winning awards and the customer feedback that we get. We've got excellent net promoter scores. You can see high performer, best ROI. Users are most likely to recommend, among other things. And it really comes down to the pillars that I already established in the previous slide. Just being easy to set up, being incredibly flexible, being cost effective. Our customers love that kind of stuff. And I mentioned before that I would talk a little bit about what that security entails. And I mentioned no VPN. This is huge. We see VPNs being leveraged as attack vectors all the time. It's all over the media. And so if we can eliminate those, then you dramatically shift the attack perimeter of an organization. And so we're able to do that, instantaneously with a Cameyo deployment, delivering that application fully encapsulated in your browser presentation. So I mentioned too before that we make sure that you don't have any statically open ports. So we have this port shield technology, which is sort of a revolutionary thing that allows you to dynamically open those requests for outbound HTTPS requests through your firewall. So you don't have to keep anything open, which eliminates the potential for being hacked. And then I'll show you in the next slide here what that HTTPS endpoint Cameyo Cloud Tunnel service looks like. So what you can see here, a pretty simple architecture. It's pretty elegant. Up on the right-hand side, you see the client device. So this can be any device, could be a Chromebook, could be a MacBook, Windows device, iGel, whatever it may be. And the user is going to go in and request whatever application they have. And you'll see this firsthand in my demo, but they'll request whatever application they want access to. And there is SSO integration, so they can authenticate to that. And there's a Cameyo Cloud service that is going to provision that access. It's going to choose the right server. So we may have a few persistent servers and an elastic cluster to expand based on the needs of those requests that come through. But for example, maybe the user requests an application that requires GPU. Maybe it's an education customer with an AutoCAD program that they want to run. So they might launch that AutoCAD request. It's going to route it to a server that has GPU capability instead of like a CPU server that might be used for Windows productivity apps or something like that. And so in this hypothetical example, a user gets positioned on a server, the correct server responds and pushes that request out through the Cameyo Cloud Tunnel service. And again, just reminding you that firewall is protected by our port shield technology. So that's going to be that outbound request that goes over port 443 to the Cameyo Cloud Tunnel service. And that has 2 HTTPS endpoints. So you are in a true zero trust architecture, and it's presenting that application fully encapsulated in an HTML5 presentation. So it's an ongoing RDP session over HTTPS encryption, which is really cool because now you're eliminating that need to present a bulky, cumbersome desktop to the end users, and instead giving them that browser-based experience that presents the application in a totally native way. So they're getting the experience as if that application is installed right there on their workstation. So, you know, for example, they could be an Excel user running Excel on a Chromebook, and they're not going to notice the difference between the Windows device and it running on a Chromebook. It can even be pinned to taskbars and things like that to make it feel really like it's locally installed. So really cool way to do things. And that is a quick overview of our architecture. What I wanted to do next was give you guys a quick demo of what the software actually looks like. So I'll go ahead and share out my screen, and we'll do a quick demo. And then next steps will be to start pushing out some emails to you guys so you can get your own accounts provisioned with Cameyo. And then we'll walk through the lab and get you to be able to install your first application Cameyo and push that out through the browser. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And assuming you guys can see that okay. Donovan, do you mind confirming for me real quick?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, cool. So what you can see here is I've got my Cameyo instance. This is the administrator console for Cameyo. And just to kind of give you a little orientation, there's a dashboard here. It's going to show me some of the high level detail that I might want to know about my environment. So I have some of the different sessions that are active. Looks like we've got 53 sessions, average duration time, what browsers are being used. You can kind of customize what you're looking at here. Here's my server infrastructure, some of the applications that are running, and some of the different users that have access, among a lot of other things. Here, the next section is the app section. And what's cool about this is we have the ability to push out these applications. This is sort of a tile view that allows you to launch the applications. And we'll walk through this after I show you how to install your first application. There's an admin section that's going to handle some of the technical details. And I will just show you quickly. There's things here like replacing the Cameyo logo with your own logo on the load screens and things like that. So it has a more integrated feel. You can set up your SSO providers here, set up integration to Google Drive, OneDrive. You have Dropbox here as well. And you also have some of the user section here, some of the session information. You have an analytics section that shows you the efficiency of your server infrastructure as you're using Cameyo. So a lot of cool things here. But to get started with Cameyo, it's incredibly easy. I'm going to show you an environment that's not set up, just to give you a feel for what you're going to be looking at in your own labs. And there will be a lab document that I send out here in just a minute for all of you. But to get started, like I said, incredibly easy. We're going to click add, and it's going to ask us to add our first server in. So like I mentioned before, Cameyo has two options. You can either host with us or go a self-hosted route. So to host with us, you can choose your Windows machine or a Linux machine. Choose where that's hosted, and we are hosted in Google Cloud. You can create that server, and once it's created, you'll have an environment that looks a little bit more similar to my environment for the demo lab. So I've got my server up and running. I'm going to go ahead and click this action section and connect as admin to my Cameyo server. Now this is just going to go ahead and launch the Cameyo server. And what you'll see here is this really is just a Windows server. It's going to give you some instructions for how to get started. And really, this is just a server that you're going to install your applications on and put your licensing and everything on. So for example, let's say that I want to grab an application like, let's see what we have installed here. Okay, so I recently installed Acrobat Reader. And again, this would just be
Eric,
where you install.
I think
Oh,
we
go
may have
ahead.
lost your screen.
Oh, really? Okay. Give me just a second here. Let me see what's going on there.
Okay, it's refreshing now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You see this okay?
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. So you'll just connect to this as the administrator, install the application, and once you've installed your application, you'll see this in the guide as well, just so we're clear. Once that's been done, you click a checkbox to publish the application, and your application will be published here. And you can just click on the application and it will show you a couple different ways that you can share this out. So for example, if I'm going to run this notepad application, I can just click on the link here. And it will launch that application. There's a couple different ways to do this. I already showed you the apps view. You could push that out in a portal to the end users so they have a view where they can launch any of their applications. Doesn't even necessarily have to be a Cameyo application, could just be a SaaS app like Salesforce, for example. You have the ability to share that out through the IDP integration too. So maybe you're using Google Admin or something like that. You can push that out. You can create restrictions to applications as well. And you can push these out as a PWA, which is a really cool feature for those of you that might be using Mac devices or Chromebooks in your infrastructure. We can push those out and pin those to a taskbar to create a really native, awesome experience with applications that wouldn't traditionally run on a Google or Mac device. So if I click over here to, oh, I think this one maybe isn't installed. Let me go back to my application. So I'll just launch this Excel app here for you. And we'll take a look at what that looks like as it runs here. And so you can see just a couple seconds here to launch the application. And once we have it here, we have the ability to use it just like we would with Excel. You can include Excel macros and things like that. So it can be a very tailored experience to the users, but it's not a browser-based experience. It's the actual application running through Cameyo. Some of the cool stuff that we do here as well would be to adjust the experience for how we save things. So we can replace the native file dialog. So you can integrate your Google Drive, you can integrate your OneDrive, you can integrate local file shares if your architecture is set up to allow access to those. It's also going to allow for keyboard shortcut pass-through. So I could do my Mac shortcuts in the Excel files here, and then I can also print. It offers redirected printing. So it's really just kind of handling everything that you'd expect for the applications and performing as if those applications are installed locally. So really cool, and I'm excited for you guys to see this firsthand. So what I want to do now is just take a quick break. I'm going to grab the email addresses from each of you guys that we've shared for the registration, and you'll see first an activation link. And I just invite you to make sure you check your spam if you don't see it here in the next 10 minutes or so. That's going to ask you to set up your credentials for Cameyo. And then you'll see a follow-up email from me directly that has a few helpful links, has a quick demo video, and also has Donovan CC'd in it so we can support you as you progress through your free trial of Cameyo. But so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to send out those emails. And if you do have any questions, Donovan, I'll let you take over and answer any of those questions while I get this stuff sent out.
Sorry about that. I was having some issues there. As mentioned with Eric, he's going to get some activation emails sent out to everyone on the call. You guys will be able to actively have a hands-on lab with this, where you'll go from installing an application and being able to publish and, and launch that application through this lab. And as I mentioned before, from there, this will convert to a 30-day trial. So being able to test some of your own custom application is also going to be possible. So if you have an application that you would like to test with delivering with Cameyo, we will be able to also support that through this process. And I'll have Eric shortly confirm how long that trial would be for. But that is also possible with this hands-on lab as well.
Yeah, and just to step in here. So that'll be active for 30 days with 10 licenses, and you'll see those details in the email as well.
As Eric is sending those out, be sure to check your junk mail filter as well on those emails. And Asif, I just want to confirm that your email address ends in .ca, not .com. If you can send that to me in the chat to confirm. I'm guessing everyone should have received the email from Eric. If you have not as of yet, please raise your hand. Marina McQueeza, I see you guys. It should arrive shortly. as you guys are receiving your activation emails, feel free to go ahead and start on getting the sign up completed. And also Eric is following that up with documentation on how to get started. So feel free to start on that. And we will remain on the line until 3 p.m. Eastern time to answer or go through any potential questions or problems you may have on that. If you have any questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat or raise your hand, and we can either unmute you or get it answered via the chat. Okay, I don't know what happened to my camera. My camera doesn't appear to be working. But I wanted to do a quick check-in with you guys before we wrap it up, see if anyone had any questions or any issues as you're going through the labs. I don't see any responses, but as mentioned earlier by Eric, we will be reaching out to follow up with you, see if you have any questions, and also follow up on the process with the 30-day lab. If you have any additional questions, we'll follow up from our side on XenTegra, as well as if there's any support issues, we'll be the first contact for that as well. I definitely want to thank everyone for joining the hands-on webinar. And I don't know if Eric is there, if he has any final words.
Yeah. So just know that we're excited to support you in this process as you evaluate Cameyo. You probably have seen in the email that I sent over that I included Donovan. Please reach out if there is any questions, if you need any support. We'd love to also take a little time to set up a tech review session with you, or hear any of the hurdles as you kind of progress through this. So we want to make sure it's a good experience, and you do have it active for a 30-day trial with 10 licenses. So you should be able to get some really solid testing in. And yeah, just let us know what your experience is. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day and a great weekend. Bye.